First, I want to thank everybody for coming today to hear the news about Kokanee from some of our leaders on our work. My name is David St. John. I'm here as a King County employee for the King County Department of Natural Resources and Parks in the Director's Office. But I'm also here as the coordinator and chair of the Lake Sammamish Kokanee Work Group, a group that we formed in 2007 and is charged with protecting this population and preventing its extinction and recovering it to robust health in the future. The Kokanee population is native to this watershed. It's a cherished salmon population for the people of this watershed and the region, and we're working hard to bring it back. We have representatives here from partners in the Lake Sammamish Kokanee Work Group, and I will be introducing those folks as they come up. I do want to recognize elected officials who are not speaking today. Sammamish City Council members Ramiro Valderrama and Pamela Short are here. And Kathy Lambert, King County Council member, whose district we're in today. So thank you for coming. I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker here, King County Executive Dow Constantine.
Well, thank you, David, and good morning. I first want us to acknowledge that we stand today on the traditional lands of the Snoqualmie people, for whom this watershed and these little fish are tremendously important. We are here today at the home of Wally Forever, who has invested his own time and his own money to restore this idyllic spawning site for returning Kokanee salmon. Wally inherited an outdated culvert that was blocking all but a few of the kokanee that were returning from Lake Sammamish to spawn in this creek. And he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace the culvert. And he hosts educational events, many of us have had the pleasure of attending, where children and adults can learn how all of us can help restore healthy habitat. Of all the annual events I get invited to as county executive, one of my favorites is coming out here to celebrate young kokanee heading out of these creeks and into the lake, experiencing it with future generations of environmental leaders. Well, this special place reflects the values of our region. It's a community where people understand the important role that salmon play in our history, in our culture, in our environment. The Lake Sammamish Kokanee Work Group that David mentioned, which King County convened in 2007, has helped guide strategic action to protect this unique salmon species. The alliance of tribal and local governments, of cities and state and federal agencies, of landowners and residents, has worked together with the shared goal of restoring healthy, resilient, stable kokanee population. We tripled the spawning area along Ebright Creek, which winds through this property. Our ongoing work includes removing barriers to healthy habitat by replacing culverts along the East Lake Sammamish Trail, planting thousands of trees and shrubs like those you see here along the creek to protect and restore salmon habitat, increasing public awareness and education to reduce stormwater population into the creeks and into the lake, and partnering with the Issaquah Hatchery to help secure the remaining kokanee population. It is an inspiring collaboration that continues to make progress. But storm clouds are suddenly gathering. Something has changed in Lake Sammamish in just a couple of years. New challenges threaten the very existence of the kokanee and all the progress we've made toward their recovery. 5 years ago, more than 18,000 returning, spawning kokanee adults were counted in these tributaries. This past year, we counted 20. During the summer, the water in the lake is often too warm. Parts of the lake don't have enough oxygen for the fish to survive. Parasites, viruses, diseases may be compounding this effect. The sparse returns are coupled with extremely low survival rates that are well below what is needed to prevent extinction. While our long-term focus will continue to be on improving the health of the entire watershed, we must take concerted action right now to save the iconic kokanee from extinction. Based on recommendations by the Kokanee Work Group, our emergency actions will include using specially designed traps to safely capture returning spawners for the hatchery program, using the latest technology to protect the unique genetic stock of the Sammamish kokanee, releasing young salmon into Lake Sammamish in the fall of 2019 after the lake's temperature has had a chance to cool off and the oxygen levels to rise, reintroducing kokanee into additional creeks in this watershed to reduce the risk that a flood or a drought or some sort of catastrophe in one creek could wipe out the entire run, and leading technical work to really understand and guide strategic actions to address the underlying factors, what is going on in this lake that is threatening the very existence of the kokanee. These actions will require an extraordinary amount of work over a very short period of time. Fortunately, the Kokanee Work Group has created a strong coalition that provides us with a roadmap to success. I want to thank all of our partners. I mentioned individuals and governments, but particularly the Snoqualmie tribe for their lasting commitment to kokanee recovery. Together, we can and we will continue our work to ensure that this little red fish will once again flourish here in King County. Thank you for being here today for this important announcement.
Our next speaker is Snoqualmie Tribal Council Member Michael Ross.
Well, Dow, thank you. Always hard to follow. I was asked to come here today and speak on something that's very near and dear to the tribe's heart. This kokanee population has seen dwindling numbers over the past few years, and especially over the past couple runs. This area is ancient to us. This lake is ancient to us, and we have sites that date back to 10,000 years. We've been here since time immemorial, and because of the kokanee. We use the kokanee not just for food, not just for nourishment, but to bring us together in one central place so that we could all feed, we could all become one as a tribe, and we could all meet each other's families that were all up and down the east coast of the Sammamish Lake, from the south in Monaghan Hill to the north in Inglewood. If we didn't have these kokanee, us as a tribe might not have been here. It would literally sustain us throughout the runs that came in, and we would preserve them into the winter months. We call the kokanee Si'ilas, and it means little red fish. These tributaries were heavily impacted from pollution and abundance of some irresponsible and responsible development. And a result of that, we have to make decisions now that will affect either the success or the failure of these fish. We can't wait any longer. As Dow just told us, it is vital. We're at extinction. If something isn't done now, we won't see it. And not our children, not our grandchildren, we in our lifetime won't see any more kokanee. So the tribe has partnered on a restoration work just upstream for a culvert replacement. We're trying to create healthy riparian forests and spawning habitats along a 1,300 feet reach. We are also working to restore more riparian forests and spawning habitats along a 600 linear foot directly along the East Lake Sammamish Parkway for Ebright Creek. This work is vital. We have to restore and reconnect not just the fish from the lake to the creeks, but our tribe to this area and our people to our history. So the tribe has committed $150,000 in EPA grant funding towards Zacuse and Ebright Creek, and the current partnership with the city of Sammamish and King County, Trout Unlimited, and Wally Forever and Mid-Sound Fisheries Enhancement Group will hopefully make the difference that we're all looking for. The Snoqualmie tribe has always been pleased to work in restoring these kokanee fish, but it makes it a lot easier when we have people like Wally. We have landowners that care and use their own personal money to make a difference. And it also helps when we have King County, the city of Sammamish, and a bunch of independent work groups like the Kokanee work group to help in the cause, because we can't do it ourselves. And we've been trying to do it for years and years. But now is a time that we can all collectively come together, combine our efforts and our knowledge to hopefully make a difference that lasts for the next 100 years. These fish do not swim out to sea. Their fates are right here through this creek and this lake. And so everyone standing here is the people that are going to save them, are the people that are going to see them into the future. So I hope that you pass this along to your children and your children's children, because the fight doesn't stop here. It goes on forever. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mayor Christy Mouch from the city of Sammamish.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. While I'm an elected official, I want to at least recognize one City of Sammamish staff member who's here, Tani Delziel, who has done so much as well for the Kokanee as well. She spends a lot of time attending those Kokanee work group meetings as well, so thank you, Tani, for all your efforts. The City of Sammamish has long committed to supporting Kokanee restoration efforts. We were one of the founding members of the Kokanee work group when it was formed as an ad hoc group back in 2007. The City Council and the City staff continue to be active participants in the Kokanee work group today. The City's 6-year stormwater capital plan includes 3 fish passage culvert projects, including Zacchaeus Creek, which is just behind you, Ebright Creek, which is running right here, and George Davis Creek. George Davis is one of the creeks that currently isn't habitable for the fish, but as we heard Executive Constantine talk, if we can increase spawning habitat by opening up that fish blockage, we can do that very thing in the event that one of the other streams that is currently fish bearing has something catastrophic happen. The Zacchaeus project will be under construction this July. The City of Sammamish made an effort to expedite that, knowing that there is what we hope to be a significant run this fall. Wally Forever and our partners with the Snoqualmie tribe, we are working to provide that restoration in Zacchaeus for over 400 feet of new Kokanee spawning stream channel. Because we realize the importance of good water quality to the Kokanee, in 2017, Sammamish introduced the Stormwater Opportunity Fund, where we are able to add water quality treatment to road projects over and beyond our current requirements. We recently completed a retrofit project of Inglewood Road, and then later on we will be doing Lewis Thompson later this summer. To monitor developments and impacts to the creek, the city also provides water quality monitoring to Ebright Creek, including flow rates, temperature, and turbidity. Education is a key component to making sure that our Kokanee can continue on. Since 2015, we have provided Kokanee education to outreach events like the Kokanee Celebration and 4th on the Plateau, which happens over the 4th of July. In 2018, the city provided 28 classroom workshops at 9 local elementary schools, reaching a total of 685 students. We are committed to continuing these outreach and education programs so that we can teach the community, our children, the value of the Kokanee and local wetlands. And ironically, this evening, the Kokanee Work Group will be providing a detailed presentation to the City Council where we can consider their cryopreservation efforts so that we can continue on with the Kokanee. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mark Taylor, Chapter President of the Bellevue Issaquah Chapter of Trout Unlimited.
Thank you, David. Thanks to everybody that's here supporting the Kokanee recovery work we're doing. Trout Unlimited is a national conservation organization. We're committed to preserving North America cold water fisheries and their watersheds. And our chapter, the Bellevue Squaw chapter, is committed, along with all of our great partners, the Snoqualmie Tribe, King County, the cities, Lake Sammamish, Issaquah, Bellevue, Redmond, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. All these are great partners working in our effort to save these little red fish, one of our last native populations in the state. So it's really important that you're all here, you're all working. We're giving all of our resources, everything we can do to get these fish back, and we hope that everybody else, all of our other partners, will step up and do the same. It's really important. There's not a lot of native Washingtonians left, and hopefully we can continue to keep these native little red fish here well into the future, beyond what our grandchildren will have. So I thank you all for coming, and please do what we can. Give us what resources we need to get the job done. Thanks very much.
Our next speaker is Stewart Reinbold, Assistant Regional Habitat Program Manager for the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Thank you for coming today. We've heard some great speeches from King County and the city of Sammamish, and from the state's point of view, we just really wanted to highlight the importance of the Kokanee Work Group and what they've done. This is a great example of local cities, King County, private citizens, local tribes getting together with state and some federal resources and making some great actions that you're seeing out here today. Ebright Creek is a great example right here with a culvert barrier removal, some a riparian planting plan just straight up the road. Huh? Oh, okay. Okay, and then right up the road you have Zaccoos Creek, which is currently undergoing the permitting process. WDFW just wants to applaud these efforts, and it's really important to recognize local groups like these and the efforts that they can make on fish recovery, and in this case, the Kokanee. And we just really want to thank Wally for inviting everybody out here and introducing us and giving us the time to come out and talk about the importance of this project. Thank you.
Our final speaker today is our host, Wally Forever.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure for me to welcome you all here at my farm. Myself and my family came out here 45 years ago, and little did I know that one day I would have this wonderful group of dedicated Kokanee supporters at my farm. So thank you all very much for coming and showing your support for the restoration of our little red fish. Ebright Creek is a very important creek to myself and my family. I recall many years ago when my young son, who was playing with a friend of his, came running up to my house and said, Dad, there are these red fish in our creek. And that started me on a journey. Having grown up in New England, creeks are very important to me. Being a fisheries biologist, they're even more important in terms of making certain that they continue to support fish populations. This creek in particular is of special importance because when I came here, the run was fairly robust, and some years were more kokanee than others, but in general, the creek was doing quite well. Unfortunately, there was a culvert next to the house that blocked the kokanee from going further upstream by and large. So after considerable discussion with people in the county and the city and the state and so forth, it was decided that we needed to remove that culvert, which we did back in 2012. That year we had one of the best runs of kokanee we've seen in recent times, and as the run developed, these fish would come by and with their fins would sort of wave at me as they would go upstream. And they proceeded probably 3/4 of a mile back up into the Ebright Canyon. It was a wonderful experience to see the fish respond to the conservation efforts that we made together. And that's continuing. I am fortunate enough to be the steward of this land, and look forward to seeing it continue to support Kokanee. So there's property to the north that I have that I'm in the process now of working with the city and with the Snoqualmie tribe to create a park dedicated to Kokanee restoration and the importance of Kokanee, not only to those of us today, but recognizing the importance they had with the Snoqualmie people for many, many years. So with that, I'd just like to thank you again for coming, and hope that we can all take this opportunity to restore our efforts to try and bring our Kokanee back to a robust population again. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So I want to thank the speakers again for coming out today and sharing your perspective. That ends the speaking portion of the event. We do have stations around here that you might want to go take a look at. What's that? Q&A. Oh, Q&A? Okay, we got time for Q&A. We're going to do Q&A. Yes.
You told a kind of success story tale here, but that chart behind you tells the opposite. What's going wrong?
Right. So I'll let the people who are actual biologists come talk about this, but the habitat restoration, the efforts over the initial years led to an increase in spawners returning to the creek. Something in the environment has happened in the last couple of years that has caused this precipitous drop, and that is exactly what we're here today to talk about. So if one of our scientists would like to come up and discuss a little bit more what we'll be looking for in the lake as we take emergency measures to preserve the genetic stock and make sure that more salmon are being produced at the hatchery, I would appreciate it. Please go ahead.
Thanks. I'm Jim Bauer with King County. I'm a fish ecologist, and this is one of the charts that's really driving our efforts, our near-term efforts, next fall and next winter. Well, really, what we see is a typical fluctuation in Pacific salmon run, and the last 2 years we have seen very low recruitment. The survival rate of juveniles is exceptionally low, and so we think that something is really compounding the mortality efforts or mortality rates in the lake. Any other questions? Technical questions?
Others? I'm a scientist myself, but I'm a political scientist. So. I mean, this is, as we're restoring the creek systems and restoring that upland habitat, we're continuing to see degradation at the other end with the fish spend their time, because as you'll recall, these fish do not ever leave this lake system. So it is a tremendous challenge with continued development. We need to make sure we understand exactly what's going on, and we need to take the steps that are within our control to bring these little fish back. Others? Well, there's a lot to look at here. I think Wally can show you some of the work that's been done along the creek, and I hope you'll also take a closer look at some of these charts, these graphics, which will tell you a little bit of the story of both our collective efforts to restore this fish and some of the challenges we've seen in the last year or two. Thank you so much for being here today.